Hello marketer, it's Ty here with another episode of Lean Mean Marketing Teams. And on today's episode we have Lotte Spencer, Global Director of Consumer Product Marketing at Spotify. Lotte has an impressive track record working in really interesting roles for telcos and tech-based companies such as 3 and Spotify. Her roles have included Product Manager, Product Marketing Manager, Head of Growth Products Marketing, Director of Customer Loyalty, and her current Global Director of Consumer Product Marketing at Spotify. This background puts Lotte in the unique position to be able to shed light on the differences between product and product marketing roles and exactly what it is that a product marketing team in a global tech company does. She also gives us an insight into how at Spotify they embrace creativity, innovation and risk-taking through hack weeks, design sprints and a culture of experimenting and failing fast. Lotte also unpacks how she manages her globally dispersed team and how she's set up and positioned her unit to become an instrumental part of the organisation. And we can't have a conversation with the marketing director at Spotify without discussing the Spotify method for scaling agile. So we touch on how that method is still in use at Spotify today. If you've heard of squads, tribes, guilds and chapters and you are unsure where it came from, then tune in to learn more. If you have any interest in learning more about what it's like to build a product marketing team or to work for a tech giant like Spotify, then make sure you check out this episode. There was so much to unpack in this conversation that it actually went over the usual time slot, so I've broken it down into 2 parts. So tune in now and be sure to check out part 2 with Lotte Spencer as well.
Welcome to Lean Mean Marketing Teams with Ty Hayes, where you'll hear from leading CMOs and thought leaders about what it takes to create a high-performance marketing team. This podcast is brought to you by Growth Generators, a consulting firm that helps CMOs design and build modern marketing teams that drive growth. If you need help optimizing your marketing team, head to growthgenerators.io. Now, let's get on to the show.
Lotte Spencer, Global Director of Consumer Product Marketing at Spotify, all the way from London in the UK. Welcome to the Lean Mean Marketing Teams podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. Great to talk to you about all this.
Welcome. I'm so excited about today's discussion. And you have an illustrious career in marketing and product marketing for tech companies such as 3 Mobile and Spotify. Can you take us back to where your passion for marketing started and give us a high-level overview of your career today?
Sure. I didn't really start in marketing. So I think when I look back on it, thinking about the podcast today, it actually probably started when I was, going through university. I did a degree called Human Sciences, which was a very new degree at the time. And it was about bringing together all the different disciplines, genetics, human evolution, health and behavior, a lot about epidemiology and public health.
Wow.
And the course was about taking all the disciplines and trying to understand human behavior at its very core. So it's not just a sociological question, it's not just a psychological question, there could be a genetics element. So I love the course, it was super interesting. And I think when I think about it, that is a really good foundation, I guess, for marketing. I was always into science, though. I was, I love, biology. I love the genetics. And the course itself was like a narrative writing, so it wasn't a sort of scientific discipline in terms of how it worked, but it was all about telling stories based on how people behaved. And so from there, I actually took a slightly different path, worked in a literary agency originally, really wanted to work with books and with writing. And interestingly, my first job was about managing audio rights, which is kind of interesting because now we're Spotify, which is building out to be this kind of audio network. The wheel has come full circle. So worked in publishing, then I worked for Pearson, which is a big publishing company, and had this eye-opening experience of moving from book publishing to digital publishing. I went to ft.com and I was just blown away by the pace and the sort of dynamism of the environment. We were writing things 2 minutes later, they were being published on the site. It was, I was running communities. And then, from that point on, I was like, I can't wait 2 years for things to be in print. I want to be in a world where it's out there, in this sort of fast-paced environment. So I did a very small startup, which didn't stay up for long because it was 1999 and the internet world was sort of imploding at that point. And then went to 3 UK. I was there for 12 years, and that was really where the transition happened from. Originally, I was in the product team and then evolved to kind of build up like a product marketing team and a product marketing function. Part of it actually based on my time working for 3 in Australia, worked with the team there in Sydney. And we were working on a product. I was given a product when I arrived, and they were like, so there's this product, nobody really wants to work on it, but I think it could be important. And I was like, okay, right. I was thinking, what is it going to be? Like, it's called the mobile internet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I was a product manager for the mobile internet, which is interesting.
Jeez. Yeah.
I was like, I think there could be something in this whole mobile internet thing. And we worked a lot at that stage. That all telcos had these walled gardens. So you were only allowed to consume, the content that was available within the walled garden. So I did a lot of strategy work with the teams on like what this would mean for the organization as a whole. And also started to work a lot on like, what is the consumer narrative for this experience? Moved into product marketing and did that for most of my time at 3. Ended up running the product team in the UK, and then for various reasons needed to move to Sweden, more for kind of personal reasons. So I didn't have any Swedish, but I knew a company called Spotify. I'd actually worked on the telco deal between 3 UK and Spotify. So I knew a couple of people, and made the jump to Sweden and to a medium-sized startup at that point. That was the move. And then I was in the telco BD team there. Obviously, having come from a telco, had a lot to, help the Spotify team on in terms of building those partnerships. But my love was always product marketing. I've hassled and harassed every single person who's ever done product marketing at Spotify from the very beginning, before I even joined. Finally my terrier-like approach won out, and I took over the team 4.5 years ago. So it's been an interesting journey, not a very conventional journey, I guess.
No. A fascinating one, and you can see how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together, from your answers. And I imagine that deep understanding of the customer is something that's so essential to product and product marketing. And then the interesting little segues around the audio rights and the mobile internet and the telco and the partnerships and how it's all led to Spotify. And I love seeing how journeys unfold and you arrive in positions that are right in your sweet spot. So thanks for sharing that background. And I'm sure nearly everyone in this audience will know of Spotify, but we may not have a sense of the size and scale of it. Can you provide a brief high-level overview of Spotify as a company? It's how it's grown over the last 7 years since you've been there.
It's grown a huge amount. So I actually had to look back on some facts and figures on how big it was when I joined and how big it is now in terms of customer base. Interestingly, when end of 2013, it said we had 36 million monthly active users, which is like one of the critical measurements that we have, and 8 million subscribers. So that's how big it was. Now our latest figures is 320 million MAU. So that's probably by the end of the year, it'll be tenfold growth.
Wow. In how many years? In those 7 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was pretty blown away by it myself. It's not something and 144 million subscribers. So the subscriber growth has just, even bigger growth. As a company, I was trying to remember how big it was when I joined. I mean, it wasn't tiny, I don't know, 800 people maybe. Stockholm was the main office. We had just launched in the US. We're in the process of launching in the US. When I joined, we didn't have a mobile product, so we only had the desktop product, and the mobile product was launched at the end of 2013.
Okay.
So yeah, in that time, not only has the company's grown, I think we're about 6,000 now, which is honestly, I would say, still pretty small. My understanding is there's about 6,000 people just working on Alexa, for example, in Amazon. So that, what we've achieved, I think it's pretty amazing. And yeah, we've obviously made some acquisitions over the years. We bought a company called Echo Nest very early on, and they have been the foundation for a lot of the algorithm of Spotify that builds the recommendations and the playlists. Discover Weekly we launched just after I'd started, 2015, which is the sort of one of our flagship playlists. And then obviously the experience itself has evolved. So starting as a music streaming service, but now very much in a space where we have a lot of podcast growth on the platform is even more phenomenal than the MAU and subscriber growth. And starting to evolve the whole audio experience. I think there was a period where when we were just a music organization, there was a question of where do we go, who are we as a company, are we a music company, are we a tech company? And I think we're very clear now that we are an audio network, we're an audio platform. That's what we're here to do. And the recent brand campaign, I don't know if it featured in Australia, but listening is everything is now our kind of brand statement about Spotify. And I think it's a great anchor for all of us in Spotify to kind of work towards. So there's still so much happening, so much innovation, so much more growth, so many more markets. But yeah, it's just exploded in 7 years.
Yeah, outstanding. And the growth in podcasts, was that, I mean, clearly that's aligned to audio is everything, and Spotify see the opportunity in that, I guess, medium growing, and the opportunity there, because I know you've placed some big bets, the Joe Rogan $100 million deal. I'm sure there'll be others that follow in that vein, but yeah, was it just seeing the opportunity and the growth that was happening in podcasts, or what was behind that?
Yes, I mean, I think that it's a more nascent industry than the music industry, and we obviously disrupted the music industry, but at the same time, in many ways, the dynamics of the music industry are not going to change. We've obviously invested massively in our kind of creator platforms and our creator capabilities. And so I think it was just a natural extension to look at other kind of audio experiences that we could create. And I think that the other big driver is that, this is a kind of companion experience. So when you think about people's attention, both in terms of what they're looking at, but also what they're listening to, there is this opportunity to kind of enhance people's experience with audio, as opposed to trying to compete with attention, which is where a lot of companies and organizations sort of naturally fall. And obviously we were seeing this huge growth in, audio overall in the world in terms of listening, leaving voice messages. There's a whole kind of evolution towards listening being more and more central to people's daily lives and could fit with their daily lives. And I think that was a very clear space for Spotify to move into.
Brilliant. And for listeners that haven't worked in tech companies, what I was really excited about bringing you on is your background both in product and product marketing, and you've had some really interesting roles in loyalty and growth as well. But for those that may be less familiar with the difference between a product manager and a product marketing manager, can you just outline those differences and the capabilities and skills of each, just to set the context for the rest of the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I started in product, and I mean, it's an interesting question, because I think that even the existence of product and product marketing is something that happens when a company gets to a certain size, if I'm honest. But at a very high level, the product team, the product manager, develop and build the experience, and product marketing managers tell the story, tell the narrative to consumers or whatever audiences you may be talking to about that experience. So we work very closely together, and the reality is that like some product managers, can be extremely technical. I work with very technical product managers that had a lot of detailed understanding about, voice calling, video calling, how networks worked. But then you also get product managers who, are interested or have some experience with building the consumer offering. And similarly, product marketers can either come from a product background, or I have people in my team who've run like regional marketing teams and things like that. At the very highest level, kind of one team is kind of building it, and one team is talking about it, communicating it, explaining it, describing it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that. And they are still kind of emerging roles, aren't they? And teams in the skills that they have and how they work together. And later in the interview, I'd love to unpack how you get the best of both teams and how to get them working together.
Yeah.
But I'd now love to dig into your time at Spotify, and most recently as their Global Director of Consumer Product Marketing. You've been in this role for just over 4.5 years. Tell me about the journey you've been on during this time.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one too. So when I started, as I said, I badgered everybody, and finally kind of took on the role, and actually the guy that hired me to the role then left. So I was very quickly promoted from head of product marketing to director of product marketing.
Yeah. Baptism of fire.
Yeah, exactly. In a way, I think it was good though, because it meant I could just do whatever I wanted and I didn't have to ask anyone.
Yeah.
We had, I think, 3 open headcount. I had 1 person in the team. At that stage, I think the product team was probably 700. I mean, it was probably the majority of Spotify. And obviously product has always been like the heart of the Spotify organization. It was interesting because what product marketing wasn't that clear. And again, I think this is partly the result of a young organization growing very quickly. We didn't have a CMO at that point. We had marketing leads from various markets. But product marketing, I think we'd had CRM people in there. We had performance marketing people in there. We had some growth marketing people. And then they had all pretty rapidly sort of moved into different teams or moved out of Spotify. So I kind of had like a blank sheet of paper, which was daunting, but good. The main thing that I honestly spent probably 6 months at least on, in terms of my focus initially, was 2 things. One was building credibility with product. So product was the established organization. Product marketing wasn't in product. We were in the marketing team. So building our relationships, building the credibility of product marketing with that team was paramount. And, we were very much, not necessarily surplus to requirements, but we needed to, prove the value of marketing to an already pretty large and, powerful function. And then obviously I also had to build out the team, because it's quite hard to do that just as, 1 or 2 people.
Can I ask stop you there then? How did you do that positioning? Because I imagine trying to create a positioning for a new function that they've lived without and they've grown successfully without, and they may not understand, and you may get different personalities, left brain and right brain in product and marketing, and people that think differently and are very, systems focused or, logical. So how did you go about positioning the team and building the case for this product marketing unit and what you were going to deliver?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because I had to kind of do it on both sides as well. So I had to also show marketing the value of getting close to product, and also show to product the value of being close to marketing. I mean, I didn't really set out a manifesto. The main thing for me was focusing on the most critical things that would not be effective without that connective tissue. So obviously, Spotify is an innovative product team launching new features all the time. So focusing in on, I guess, the go-to-market and launch and improving that process. Primarily, and honestly, most of it was really just communication between the two teams. I went all around every product team and I put together a roadmap. No one had ever seen a roadmap. Obviously in marketing, they'd asked for roadmaps, but had never, that's not how an agile organization works. I mean, we still don't have roadmaps now. So not in the product team anyway. We have, directions and strategies, but it's not, it's very different to the telco world of roadmaps. So just having that visibility between the teams that could only have come from sort of me being in between the two was, I guess, the start of making that work. So product managers suddenly had access to channels, capabilities that they'd never, they didn't even know they could leverage as product managers. They would launch the feature and it would be in the client and therefore it would be launched. So suddenly there was, we were also kind of putting together, obviously, like communications plans, PR plans, and working with them on building value propositions. And actually that, I'd say that was the next step after the just improving the communications, was to build a kind of discipline around how do you create a value proposition. So, I mean, we've kind of done a lot of, I guess, evangelical work in the company to, spend time in all the different kind of product organizations and explain to them how value proposition development can really help them in their thinking as they evolve the product. Also gives us a smoother path to being able to communicate it, in a way that obviously, gets results. And by results, we have the same KPIs as product. So I think that also made a big difference, is that clearly there are lots of parts of marketing that have, a whole range of different KPIs. But we share our KPIs with product and therefore can really make that point about being a support to them.
Yeah, that's crucial. And the value proposition approach, has that changed over time? Like, do you use a value proposition kind of canvas and it begins with the user research and pains and gains, or how does it work at a high level?
Yeah, we varying levels of, I guess, process depending on the product or feature that we're working on. So we launched, for example, like the new mobile free tier a couple of years ago. And that was a kind of very heavily invested kind of value proposition process. Like we did a lot of work around both the product insights and the consumer insights, moved into kind of messaging development. We did a lot of testing, messaging iteration. But we also have like quite a simple framework that we can literally sit down with a product manager and run through and agree in a relatively sort of short period of time, for smaller features. But we do use the same ultimate kind of framework. And we also leverage a lot of different teams along the way. So we've also spent a lot of time working with product insights in addition to consumer insights, so that we can start to pave the way for, the value proposition itself.
Excellent. So there was one marketer, a few positions open. Fast forward to 4.5 years, and roughly how many staff do you have, and what functions do you have reporting into you now?
6, team of 6.
Yeah, so, wow, still pretty lean.
Very lean. So we have 6. Actually, it has changed in that time. So the focus on go-to-market was obviously kind of critical, built the kind of credibility, helped us, prove the impact. The downside of only having a product team focused on go-to-market is that as marketers who are wanting to tell a narrative and a story to engage audiences, you are primarily driven by product timescales, the product direction, product strategy, product priorities, which we have to do, and that is our job. But the piece that was always missing for me in that model was we have audiences all around the world who we need to tailor our conversation and tailor the messages around our product based on their needs and what they're interested in, not based on what's important to our product organization. And obviously the product organization ultimately is building things for consumers as well, but I felt that we needed to have more of a kind of audience first approach in product marketing, in addition to this kind of product first model that is, you know, the foundation of the team. So 2 years ago, I kind of restructured the team a little bit, brought in a girl into my team who had actually been a regional marketing lead. So had been sort of on the ground and sort of in a region. And so we have that team now focused on much more looking at different audiences that we want to grow in, working with the insights team and coming up with kind of product education programs, product awareness programs, which are really tailored to the audience. And then the second thing was that the actual creation of content as a product marketing team is quite specific. We'd had a big gap between, we have obviously a massive team of product designers who are, you know, designing the actual product. And we have some fabulous brand designers that, you know, the brand and creative team internally creating, you know, beautiful, you know, campaigns and, you know, product marketing sits in the middle. And we didn't really have that capability. We were outsourcing it to agencies, which was not just expensive, but it was also, there's a lot of iteration and the product changes. You know, the product can be changing right up to the very minute that your campaign starts. So the other thing I did was to build like a small production team within my team, with designers who could kind of bring those things together, who could evolve the screenshots, could quickly turn them around when the product was still changing. And so now we have that kind of like triumvirate in the team. We have the go-to-market, audience growth, as we call it, and the production team. So, and that actually works really very, very well. It did mean that we reduced the overall coverage of the product organization. So we're actually doing even more with less people in that sense. But we've evolved our model with our other marketing teams to amplify the way that we do as a global function. So that's how it's changed.
So what are some of the different actual products within the Spotify suite that your team helps support in the product marketing team?
So we work primarily with one of the biggest teams in Spotify called the Consumer Business Unit. So that is the product team led by a guy called Gustav Söderström, who people may have heard of. So they develop pretty much the entire kind of consumer product experience in Spotify. So we work with the team that build the core mobile experience. And that is, everything you see within the mobile app, from things like core features. So we launched, for example, recently group sessions and collaborative listening, a lot of the tools and experiences that you see in the product. But that also includes all of the kind of personalized sets, the personalized playlists, things like Discover Weekly. We just relaunched Time Capsule, which hopefully some of you listen to. A big fan with the over 35 audience. And all of the kind of personalized sets that sort of sit within the core experience. We support those teams. We also work on the partner and platform experiences. So the Spotify experience across all other devices other than mobile. So desktop, gaming integrations, gaming device integrations, wearables, hearables, integrations for listening in the car, and our integrations with car manufacturers. So all of those we work on the sort of launch marketing, but then also what we would call the kind of growth marketing. So trying to get as many of our listeners listening on multiple platforms as possible. So there's not much we don't work on.
No, I'm just team of 6, so you're not very busy then. The growth marketing, prick my ears up. Is that how does that work within your team, and how has that evolved over time? You mentioned, to begin with, there were performance marketers, and I know with a lot of tech companies, they're often at the forefront of growth marketing and looking to create that kind of viral coefficient and create that hockey stick growth, which Spotify has obviously seen over the years, or hearing the numbers you gave at the beginning of the interview. But how does the growth marketing work in your team and across the business?
So we So within the business itself, we do have dedicated kind of growth marketing functions, specifically subscriber business, the premium business. I guess the ownership of free growth is more distributed. It's more distributed into often the markets where we operate. So we do have a pretty large distributed regional marketing function across, a lot of markets. In terms of our team, I think I wouldn't say we have a specific like growth marketing kind of function or capability, but we work in partnership with the regions. So the audience growth team I talked about works in partnership with those regional teams and sort of provides both insight and honestly kind of assets and toolkits to allow them to kind of run product first or product driven growth marketing programs. I think it's probably, for us anyway, the way that we work, we don't have like a big central kind of global product marketing budget. We leverage the budgets either in our kind of global marketing function for brand campaigns that might feature product, or the budgets and the capabilities in the regions themselves. So we know that, and we've done a lot of work with the teams to show how product education and engaging the right users about the right product at the right time in their journey into Spotify can really improve retention primarily. So we're often much more focused on growth that comes from improved retention versus acquisition growth. And I think like when you talk about that sort of flywheel, clearly there's a big organization in Spotify that develops that around the content properties that we have. So it's kind of all moving at the same time, but primarily we focus on how we can drive growth at the kind of market level, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting because think of the long and the short of it, and the 60% kind of brand building and the 40% promotion, and you've got your brand team over there, and there's other audience insights and retention teams, but I guess your space in the middle is really driving that acquisition of product and retention of product, working with the other teams and with the regions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And actually, I think, again, in terms of like, I suppose that we're still on the journey of proving the value and the credibility and importance of product marketing. And actually, we've had a lot of success in that partnership with regions, being able to kind of prove the impact. And I think that, that is something that we will continue to kind of invest in as a team to be able to, package that up. And then also, other markets, other regions can, use what we've learned. So there's always a lot of sharing of kind of knowledge as we expand our understanding of what works and what doesn't work.
You've been listening to Lean Mean Marketing Teams with Ty Hayes. If you love the show, please remember to hit subscribe so that you can discover more tips and strategies to build a high-performance marketing team. And if you're feeling generous, please tell someone about the show who you think would benefit. We're on a mission to help CMOs build their dream team and enable marketers to do their best work. And we appreciate your help in spreading the word.